Today, we're talking about if the Chicago Bulls did enough in free agency. We're also going to be talking about the NBA Summer League and the major storylines coming up for the Chicago Bulls. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Mazelis slam dunks in games, because in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it, as we're going to start with if the Chicago Bulls did enough in free agency. And so just taking a look at the free agency moves that the Chicago Bulls did. And so Norman Powell coming in and signing a brand new contract with the Chicago Bulls. You have Zac Collins, who signed an extension with the Chicago Bulls. And Nic Claxton, we're going to count him as a free agent acquisition, even though the Bulls did go ahead and trade for him. And so these were the big names that the Bulls went ahead and brought in here during free agency, and they used up their cap space until now. They do have about $9.4 million left with their mid-level exemption. And so I do think that the Bulls did do enough in free agency. And actually, I think that it sets them up nicely for the next phase of this rebuild. And so, number one, I like the fact that the Chicago Bulls went out and they got Norman Powell because of just really his experience and just really where he's been in the NBA. You're looking at a player that has the championship experience. And when you're talking about really trying to rebuild a team, you're trying to establish a winning culture, I do think that you need to bring in NBA champions. And Norman Powell certainly checks the box there. And I do think that he is going to bring toughness on both sides of the court, because I do think that he's going to compete at a high level. We've talked about the fact that, look, he's played for the Miami Heat. He's played with Kawhi as well. You have to have the toughness out there to play on those teams, especially, with the Raptors there when they were able to win their championship. And so I think that he is going to bring that on both ends of the floor for us. And then the shot making ability. And so we've been talking about this, this team is going to have to get some players that can make some shots from outside. And also, too, I like the fact that he can do it in several different ways. And so you're looking at a player that can really get downhill. He can get to the mid-range. He can get to the foul line as well. And so I think that that's going to help the offense out, because when it does slow down and you need somebody to get you a bucket, I think that Norman Powell is the type of player that, look, he could bail you out of tough situations. And so hopefully the Bulls don't play like that a lot, but I think that he can certainly do that for you. And so next, Nic Claxton. And so Nic Claxton, I think that what he presents is really the defensive anchor. And I think that this is something that this team really, really needs. They need somebody that defensively can plug up the middle and make it tough, because, look, you're going to have situations where the guards are going to get beat at times and people are going to get downhill, and you need somebody that can erase those mistakes. And I think that Nic Claxton can do that. Then also, too, you're talking about a player that is going to give you the lob threats. And I think that that is really essential with the way that this roster is shaped right now at the time of this podcast recording. I think that Josh Giddey, it's going to be a lot easier for him to get some more assists with the lob threats and the stuff that you can run with the backdoor actions and stuff like that. And then also, too, you think about the fact that he's got Caleb Wilson, he has Noe Essengue, right? He has Dalen Swain. Like, it's going to open up the court, I think, for more easy baskets for this team, which I think that's something that they're absolutely going to need as they try to figure it out. And I do think that Nic Claxton, even though he's coming from a losing situation with the Brooklyn Nets, now he's getting locked into an organization here that is really trying to change things. I think it is going to be really almost like just a breath of fresh air for him. So I think that he's going to bring some intensity and some physicality to this team as well. And then with Zac Collins, look, you're looking at a player that's just a solid player. I think that Zac Collins is solid on both ends of the floor. He's going to compete hard defensively out there. He is not going to back down. He's with all the smoke. And so you love that. And I love offensively that, look, he does give you a little bit of a floor spacer. He's going to screen well as well, and he comes off the pick and roll. He can play at the top of the key and pass the basketball there. And so the question with him is just, can he stay healthy? That is the main question with Zac Collins, but no question about it, when he's out there, very solid player. And so I think that, just really with what the Bulls did with their cap space, I like it, because what it does for the Bulls and just really what situation now they can take a look at as they continue to build is number one, you get a chance to now put yourself into a situation where you actually have team identity, which I think that when you're building from the ground floor, you have to bring in the right players. Obviously you have to draft well, but you also do have to make the right decisions in free agency. And so I think that Bryson Graham really did a great job as far as really trying to build the team identity. The next, when you talk about the length, the size, the physicality, and the athleticism, I think that really this checks the box for the Chicago Bulls with all of these guys. And then I think the next thing here is that it sets the Chicago Bulls up for long-term development because none of these players are going to get in the way of the players that have been drafted and these younger players that need to get minutes. And so I think that that is very important as you're transitioning and you're continuing to build here, is that you have to clear a path for the long-term development. Because I did see, hey, if you bring in certain free agents, they're probably going to take away some playing time and stuff like that, which is true. I don't think that any of these players get in the way of that for the Bulls, which is very important with that developmental piece. And so, yes, I think that the Bulls did a great job. I think that one of the moves that Bryson Graham did, we're still going to find out really how this plays out going back to the second round of the NBA draft where the Chicago Bulls don't pick up a draft pick there and they go ahead and they just get pick swaps and they get the cash considerations. We'll find out how that works out down the line. But I will say this, look, with Cam Jones being released, that could actually play a big factor for the Chicago Bulls too, because maybe there's a situation in which maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers, maybe they decide to trade Max Strus or something like that. You have a roster spot available. You also have, the exemption available as well. And, who knows if the Bulls decide to move a player along with that situation. And so I think because of Cam Jones being released, I would say that that was a solid move for the Chicago Bulls because it gives them options, which is what Bryson Graham talked about. And so we will see how this works out. But to me, I think that the Bulls did a great job with what they did in free agency. And so I'm looking forward to see what this team is now going to do as they transition to the next phase here of this rebuild. And so you guys let me know in the comments here, did the Chicago Bulls do enough in free agency? Did you think that they should have did some more based off what they had? So I'd love to hear what you're thinking there. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to talk about the NBA Summer League. So super excited for the NBA Summer League coming up. The Chicago Bulls actually went ahead and released the roster here. And so this is the roster, the players that will be playing out there in the NBA Summer League to go along with Caleb Wilson, Dalen Swain, and Noe Essengue, who will be out there for the team. And so I wanted to talk about some of these players to take a look at and to watch for. And so I'm not saying that these players are necessarily going to, make the NBA roster and things like that, but I think it could be interesting when you're taking a look at players that you might need to bring up from the Windy City Bulls, because I think that that is another thing that Bryson Graham is going to have to focus on with this rebuild, is that we talk about the Miami Heat, we talk about their culture. And one of the things with the Miami Heat, one of the things that they're able to do is they're able to find undrafted talent. They're able to take players, from their G League affiliate team, and those players may get a chance to play and then they end up, turning into something. And I think that you have to take the Windy City Bulls and that program just as serious when you're trying to build out, a winning team and just really have that developmental piece. And so, this is where you find some of those players here in the Summer League. And so, one of those players to take a look at for the team in NBA Summer League is going to be Boo Buie here. Boo Buie the third. He played for the Mexico City Captains this last season, averaged 16.6 points per game, 4.5 with the rebounds per game, and 4.6 with the assist. He shot 38.5% from three and 42.3% from the field, and shot 74.6% from the free throw line. And so he's a player that, look, he has pretty nice touch. He's very good as far as getting downhill with the runners and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see what his offensive game looks like. Another player to take a look at when we're talking about the Chicago Bulls, we're talking about really the size and everything else. Williams. And so he's a 6'11" center. He played 5 seasons in college. In the G League, he averaged 15.2 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game, shot 43% from the field, and he shot 34.2% from three. And so looking to see what he brings to the team here during Summer League. Also, too, another name to note is going to be Kennedy Chandler. And so Kennedy Chandler, he was a big-time player there for Tennessee, came out in the 2022 draft. He was a second-round pick. He was actually picked number 38. So 6 feet, 170 pounds. So we get a chance to see what he looks like. Grant Newell, he actually is from Chicago, and so he played for Cal Berkeley and also to Western Kentucky, so 6'9", 220. And so if you're rooting for somebody from the hometown, perhaps it'll be Grant Newell. And the next, another player that I'm very interested in taking a look at here, and he actually was in this last draft class, and that is going to be Jalen Washington. And so Jalen Washington, 6'10", with a 7'4" wingspan, and his calling card is going to be physicality and defense. And so he actually played for the University of North Carolina. He finished up this last season with Vanderbilt. And so he's certainly a player that I would want to take a look at. This is a guy that is going to be pretty effective off the pick and roll. He has great hands, again, great size. You're going to see the versatility with the way that he moves. He has a solid jump shot as well, can get to the boards and things like that. And so just looking at his NBA draft profile and what it says here, it says that he has quite a bit of upside here. And so it's saying that really his calling card, once again, is going to be somebody that is a modern center who can protect the rim while staying out of foul trouble. It talks about the fact that he blocks shots with patience and timing rather than lunging, and showing advanced instincts for a player who never saw substantial minutes. And it says that Washington is primarily a catch and finish big who does most of his damage in the short roll and on cuts. While his three-point production didn't stand out in college, he was more than willing to let it fly. And it talks about the fact that he looks like a player just like Okongwu, who plays for the Atlanta Hawks. And so, he's a solid center there for the Hawks. And it also talks about the fact that defensively, with his versatility, very similar to Xavier Tillman and then also to Thomas Bryant and Isaiah Stewart. So those are all big men that have been able to really be a solid backup centers in the NBA with the way that they are versatile on both offense and defense. And so, again, just paraphrasing this, you can check out NBA.com. You can take a look at his NBA draft profile and take a look at him. And so Jalen Washington, once again, played for UNC, very talented too, because I think in the 2024 season, he actually was UNC's Defensive Player of the Year. So the 24-25 season, he was that before he moved on to Vanderbilt. This last season with Vanderbilt, 8.9 points per game, 0.6 with the steals, 1.3 with the block shots, 5.6 with the rebound, shot 74.1% from the free throw line, and 29.4 from deep. He did have a season with UNC, his second season, where he shot 53.3%. That was on a very low volume. Career-wise, 31.1% from downtown, 58.8% from the field as far as the field goal percentage. And this is a player that is very durable. He has played in at least 37 games, started in 9 games for Vanderbilt this last season and 16 games for UNC the season before. So he's another player to watch for. Once again, just taking a look at the Summer League roster and this team that is getting ready to go ahead and get set to play on Friday. So I also wanted to talk about some other big key storylines for the Chicago Bulls as they get started with NBA Summer League this upcoming Friday. And so they're going to open up with the Memphis Grizzlies. And so we've talked about this before, Caleb Wilson and the things that he's talked about in his press conference. He is eager to prove that certainly he can compete with these guys, and he is better as well. And so he's wanting to get to the Rookie of the Year considerations. And so he's going to start off here in the Summer League against all these top prospects. And so I think that is absolutely going to be a storyline. I've talked about this before with Dalen Swain, the fact that the Bulls are going to play the Los Angeles Lakers. Remember that Cameron Carr in a lot of the mock drafts was picked to go much higher than him. And so I think that Dalen Swain, if he's got the chip on his shoulder, he is certainly going to want to prove that he can play with him and is even better than him. And also, too, I think that he's going to want to show out when the Bulls do play these top players in the draft in AJ DeBonza. You're talking about Darian Peterson as well. And then also, too, with Cameron Boozer, I think that he's going to want to show out just like Caleb Wilson. And so very, very excited to see them. And then also, too, taking a further look at the roster, I think another thing that is going to be key for this upcoming Summer League is going to be the story around Noe Essengue. And so you're taking a look right now at the official roster chart here for the Chicago Bulls Summer League, and they have him listed at 6'11". And so Noe Essengue now listed at 6'11". So it looks like that he's still growing. And so that's going to be interesting to see ultimately what he's going to look like by the time he just gets to his peak as a player. But I think it's a very good sign. Look, if he's gotten taller over the summer and hopefully gotten stronger. And so Noe Essengue, I thought that he played very well in the Summer League. I don't think that it was anything that was like MVP level, but if he was dealing with a shoulder injury and he played that well last season, I'm curious to see what he's going to look like now, coming off the shoulder surgery, getting stronger, and then also too getting taller as well. I think that he's now a little bit more ready for the physicality in the NBA. And so hopefully we see him dunking on a lot more people as far as posterizing them and everything else. And so Noe Essengue, that is very much going to be a storyline because look, Bryson Graham clearly hasn't moved off of him. He's got Caleb Wilson. He also has Dalen Swain as well. This is your core along to go with Modest Buzelis, and then also too you got Josh Giddey as well. And so you got your core of young players here. This is going to be an important step here for Noe Essengue and his evaluation to see what he can do. So that's certainly going to be a storyline. And also too, lastly, when you take a look at the head coach there for the Chicago Bulls, and we talked about this before, right now we got Tiago Splitter. And so Tiago Splitter wanting to go out there, coach this young roster, really start to get things off on the right foot, with the principles and the things that he's looking forward to seeing. And so, look, if you are going to get a Summer League ticket, I think that this is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and see, the Bulls' high draft picks. And then also, too, you get a chance to see Tiago Splitter coach up this roster and just see exactly what he's looking to run defensively and offensively with the schemes and things like that. So exciting stuff here for the Chicago Bulls as Summer League gets rolling. You guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are looking forward to seeing from the NBA Summer League. Again, the Bulls, man, it's going to be a lot of good stuff happening in the Summer League with these games and stuff like that. You're going to see all the top picks go against Caleb Wilson, and so we'll get a chance to see what they can do there. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are looking for there. And then also, too, did the Bulls do enough in free agency? We'll be talking a little bit more about the Chicago Bulls and their next step after this free agency period. And so, look, as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.